1 second. It's just preparing, so should be good.
This meeting is live streaming. So does that mean we are? Yes, meeting is now streaming live. Fantastic evening, everybody. Lovely to see you.
Good evening.
I'm just going to quickly whiz round as I see you all on the screen. If you could just say briefly who you are. I'm going to start with my top left-hand corner. Ian, who are you?
Ian Hodgkinson. I am a property developer and builder. Our headquarters are on Pride Park, Derby.
Brilliant. An all-round amazing person. Matt, also an all-round amazing person. Who are you?
Oh, thank you. Derby City Council, Mickleover Ward Councillor.
Fantastic to see you. Lovely. Lida, lovely to have you with us for the first time.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Lida. I'm chair of the Association of Ukrainian Women in Derby and also a member of the Association of Ukrainians in Derby as well.
Lovely to have you with us, Lida. Really lovely. And to Callum, first time.
Yeah, the first time. Very happy to be there. Good evening, everyone. I'm Callum Parke, reporter for the Derby Telegraph, covering mostly Mickleover, Mackworth, Allestree and Darley, but I do a whole smattering of things as well.
Oh, well, it's great to have you here. And for you guys, we just have a bit of a friendly chat. And right at the end, we always have, what is it? We have, Matt, is it points?
Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom, because we do words of wisdom all the way through. My first thing is I sustained a really bad injury that became infected last week, but I'm okay now, but just wanting a bit of sympathy. But it was quite poorly.
How did you do that?
Oh, I fell over. It must be my age, and I got grit in it, and then I carried on canvassing, and it just must have got infected. And awful. But anyway, let's have a if we may. I mean, the first thing, I don't know whether you're aware, but I'm going to Poland this week. So I'm going to Ukraine border. I'm going to some refugee camps out there. And Lida, I wonder if you could sort of tell us really what is the most effective way that we can be helping Ukraine evacuees and people? Have you got any sort of thoughts on that, please?
Well, there are quite a few ways, really. One of the most important ways is to recognise that just packing up lorries full of everything that people would like to send over is not necessarily the most effective way. Because the borders have been overrun, they're overwhelmed with things. Money is much easier because then they can purchase the things that are actually directly needed for the women and the children, especially that are being trying to get over the border. The second way to help is, of course, through the sponsorship schemes here in Britain, but that has been. Sorry, I've got puppies, so they're just making a bit of a noise.
Puppy, yes.
I was going to say the sponsorship scheme is fraught with some difficulty because you would have to actually name as a Briton wanting to offer refuge to somebody, you have to name the people that you would like to take in. But that's very difficult because there's no real matching service going on at the moment. So although there are thousands of people have actually registered for the sponsorship scheme, it's been difficult to match them to individuals who would like to come to England as refugees.
Thank you for that, Lida. And as you know, I had a meeting with Taz and group the other night, seeing if there's something we can do to be helpful in that. But that's interesting, isn't it, Matt, in terms of, you know, and thank you to everybody who has donated, whether it's nappies or anything that you think is needed. However, I think the message is coming across loud and clear, isn't it? It's in terms of cash is the most useful. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting because I think either last week or the week before, I wasn't quite sure when we were talking about what we could do. I was hosting it on your behalf, Amanda, and that exact fact that obviously donations are important, but we gave out the Red Cross details because they're in a position if there's monetary donations, then obviously they are on you know, on the borders and actually they're sort of dealing with it on the front line, so to speak. So that's really in tune with what we've been saying. On the other issue, I wonder if not now, obviously, but maybe, Amanda, that there could be further dialogue with the City Council about how they may be able to help in partnership to try and make that process. I don't know too much about what the the issue is with the naming of particular families or whoever to actually house and help. But and I'm sure there may be logic behind that, but it seems to me that maybe there needs to be a little bit more work there, that organisations like city councils, Derby Homes, for example, is just an example. I'm not an expert in this, but it may be that further dialogue can be had there to maybe help that situation in some way. I may be wrong, but that's the route that I would encourage the dialogue to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought, and clearly communication is one of the most important things that we can do, Matt, really, and that's what we're hoping to do. But Ian, I mean, do you have any thoughts on this? Are you where are you on this?
Well, to be honest, I'm a bit similar to Matthew. I'm not as close to it as maybe Lida is at the moment, of course. But I think if there's more communication brought through to us, then it can direct some help. But I have seen some builders that have been loading up the vans and taking it to Poland, and then obviously on to Ukraine, thinking that is the best the best thing to do. Whether it is or not, maybe it's not. But yeah, I mean, if we can have some more awareness about it and the best things to donate and the best thing to do, and if it is cash, then so be it, and where to go and how we can donate cash.
I think I mean I'm going to come to Callum then Lida, but I think the message that maybe Lida, you just like to reinforce that message at the end. But I think it's not to diminish in any way. We all want to be helpful.
Absolutely.
And that's clearly what we're all trying to do. But it does seem the clear message is cash. But Callum, let me come to you first, and I'll come back to Lida, because I guess you could maybe help us in that message, Callum. I don't know.
Absolutely, it's I think the crisis, the war, however we refer to the ongoing events in Ukraine, have really showcased some of the best in terms of the spirit of the people of Derby and Derbyshire, and hopefully I see Lida nodding there. A fantastic response from people who otherwise would have no connection to that part of the world, and indeed, though, excuse me, I was fortunate enough to meet members of I've got to get this right, the Ukrainian Youth Association, which perhaps Lida is familiar with, who are based in Weston-on-Trent. And of course, they've been spearheading efforts. They just sent their second lorry of donations over, which had 26 pallets on it, and was very privileged to see what was going on down there. I think, as Lida has kind of alluded to, one thing that I was told when I was down at the centre that they've got in Weston was that sometimes the quality of the things they got, for example, sleeping bags, there'd be sleeping bags with holes in, and there'd be things like that, but they just physically could not send over. And sometimes, sadly, it felt like it coincided with a good chance to get rid of stuff that people perhaps didn't want. So they thought, well, it must be useful somewhere. And I think it's important to make that distinction, that we are sending over things that people actually need. We've heard reports from people that piles of clothes are just being burned at the border because they don't know what to do with them. Often refugees, very sadly, are crossing the border, picking up what they can, and then carrying on, and taking bags of clothes with them just isn't something that they can afford to do. But take nothing away from the actual response of the people of Derby and Derbyshire, and I think that's something that we as a paper have tried to cotton on to, because I think that's how we can help best as a publication, given our, in the context of things, fairly limited reach. Fantastic initiatives, obviously, for example, Motors Commercials, who've sent teams of drivers over with vans of supplies, Cyril's Funhouse in Long Eaton, and many more, I hasten to add, have really kind of pulled their finger out and got behind things. And I think that's something that we do as a paper, is demonstrating to people how they can help. The council issue I'm aware of. It's something I actually would like to look into, as to how councils are faring with that, with the kind of refugee hosting process. I have heard councils have had some issues in terms of communication and not totally understanding what they need to do, but that's something that hopefully can be ironed out in future.
Really helpful, Callum, and we will, we can take that up as well, but as well. But Lida, I mean, one of the things I I'd love your thoughts on that. But also, I don't know whether you're in touch with anybody in Ukraine at the moment, and certainly the picture I have, and I have had the greatest of privileges to have seen the president from a parliament, who was zoomed into parliament when I was on the benches, and meet 4 MPs from Ukraine. And the thing that really, and I know we would talk about the spirit of people in Derby and the way people are helping, but the spirit of people in Ukraine, it just fills me with I don't know what, with emotion, really.
Yeah.
Lida, what are you finding from people out there?
Exactly that. The resilience has been of the people facing such an onslaught has just been tremendous. They don't want to be quashed. They don't want to be rubbed out of history. They want to be who they are, a peace-loving nation that has absolutely no designs on Russia or anything. They just want to get on with their lives. They're proud of who they are. They're proud of their history, proud of their language, proud of their culture, and they want to maintain that. And there's no reason for what's happening today. Absolutely none whatsoever. So yes, can I just come back to what you were saying?
Please, yes, I was just before you did that, Lida, I was just going to say one thing, and forgive my ignorance on this, but I hadn't actually realised the strong identity that people in Ukraine have with being from Ukraine. That's what's come across. It's like this amazing identity. Is that something that you were obviously aware of before?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was raised, both my parents were Ukrainian. I grew up here, but I've always considered myself to be Ukrainian first and British second, almost in a strange way, but obviously born here, I am British. And we've always been taught, we have such a love of our culture, our history. And maybe that comes from, and our language, but I think that comes from the hundreds of years in which we were being constantly hammered by the Soviet Union, before that the Tsarist regime, before that the Austro-Hungarian Empire, etc. So, people have tried to erase us from any sort of geographical and historical perspective, but we just continue because we are so proud of who we are. I think that's the bottom line. And I think that comes through in everything that people are seeing today. The resilience is just amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Lida, you were going to say how best we can support, just to reiterate what the best things to do would be.
Yes, I didn't want to come across as saying, oh no, just send us money. That wasn't the intention. We have been overwhelmed by the tremendous response of people in Derby, in Derbyshire, and in fact, the whole of Great Britain. It has been yet another overwhelming response. But it is important to remember that that response needs to be targeted for the right resources in the right place at the right time. And not to just think, oh, we're going to help, so let's send everything we can, when that may not be the best way forward. And at the moment, there is quite a need for medical aid and medical support. And the other important area is supporting mothers with children, so babies, young children, toddlers, etc., nappies, all of that. So those are the main areas at the moment that are coming through to me. My son was there for a week, just 2 weeks ago, and he was saying that what he saw on a train that he took, which took him 12 hours just to get across the border, he said it was horrific. A mother, 2 children, and a case, and that was it. And they've left everything. So he said, how do we help these people, Mum? How do we help them? So we've been looking into that. But yes, thank you.
No, thank you, Lida, and thank you for giving us such an insight into what we can't even imagine vaguely it's going to be like. And I know, I say, I'm going to Poland later on Thursday this week, and I guess I will get to see more of what it's like, but I still won't be able to feel it because I come from a position of safety, and these people are fleeing, as we know, fear, and I just can't imagine that fear. I genuinely can't. So thank you very much for that. Before we move away from Ukraine, does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Yes, Matt.
If I may, so I sense, well, I know that there's a huge swell of connection between our country and Ukraine, and sympathy, and we're all horrified with what's going on and feel helpless. But what I've seen just in locally in Mickleover is flags being flown, Ukraine flags being flown from windows. In the village, we've created a big electronic sign of the Ukraine flag in solidarity, really. And we know obviously that the country is offering significant military support, which is really making a difference, and that's been recognised. Do the Ukraine people know how much we care about this? Is that coming through? Because
Yes,
they need to understand. It's so difficult for us to understand how bad we see awful things on the TV at the moment. But if nothing else, if they know that there's people out there in the worldwide that are really supporting them, want to see an end to this and a positive end for Ukraine itself, is that coming through?
Yes, it certainly is. I mean, I have friends in Kiev who unfortunately couldn't evacuate because my friend was unwell at the time when it was really bad. And I sent a message saying, I don't know what I can do to help. I feel a bit like everybody else. I feel helpless. How can I help you? And he said, well, what are you doing? And I sent him sort of lists of the things that we were doing here, the money, the donations, the transport that was going across, telling them all about the weapons and the military support that was going from this country to there. And he said, that's just phenomenal. He said, and we hear about it all the time. We hear about it on the news. We know that Britain is helping. We know that you are all doing as much as you can. And like you say, putting up flags and everything, some people think, well, it's just a flag, but it's not. It's an important message that transports itself across the world to say, we are with you, Ukraine. We understand what you're going through. We may not be there, but we are with you in spirit. And this is how we show it. And I think that's so important.
Thank you so much, Lida. Really good and great question, Matt. What I'd like to do, and I say we just, there was a vigil yesterday actually at the cathedral, and it was a multi-faith vigil, and I know we met there, Lida, and wasn't it incredible, the power of silence, actually, just having that half hour to actually think and focus and think what it must be like. So thank you as well to anybody who's listening who organised that. It was incredibly powerful. I'd like to move on, if I may, to education. I think this is probably a subject that's close to all of our hearts. But as you're probably aware, we've been made a priority education investment area. Matt, I'm going to come to you first because I know you and I share an absolute, well, all of us, I'm sure, have a passion for education.
We do.
Thoughts on this, Matt?
Well, I've got right, let me caveat this before I say it. Everybody has their different path for a career, and mine was very varied and very different, and not everyone should follow what I did. I couldn't wait to actually leave school, but I had very specific interests that really weren't catered for when I was at secondary school at the time. And thankfully, I've been able to use those and grow those skills and actually make a career in that area. Looking back now, of course, the world is everybody's oyster. And whilst I couldn't wait to leave school and education to get out there and do what I wanted to do in music and computers and all of that kind of stuff, now all of those things, all of those interests are available for everybody should they want to take them. Amazing courses, both in primary and education in primary and secondary, and then of course into college and university. The opportunities and choices are vast, and it really is something which I think everybody should grasp. You've got to be good at what you want to do, and you've got to have drive about where you want to get to. But if you've got a passion, this is my message, Amanda, if you've got a passion, if you're a youngster and you really believe in something and you do genuinely feel that you've got a skill for it, go for it. Absolutely go for it. Talk to your teachers, talk to your tutors, see what's out there, and really find a pathway towards that destination. And for me, if you can really end up doing a career that you enjoy, it's not like a job. and to earn money from that. If you're good at something and you continue to do it, you will end up being able to make a living from it. What more could you ask? So for me, it's about opportunity.
Thank you, Matt. High five on that. Ian, I'm going to come to you again, because I know, again, we've had many conversations about this. And you have a unique opportunity to help young people, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I will say what Matt's just said there. I could have said it myself, and it's all about passion, and it's all about determination. And we hire on passion and determination rather than qualification, to be quite honest. But yeah, if you've got this passion about you and you enjoy doing it, you don't spend a day at work at all, because it's an advantage that you get paid for doing something that you love doing anyway. So, and that's what I feel about my job. And yeah, the opportunities that the building trade is giving young folks these days is absolutely immense. I mean, we've got the big job in the middle of town, Amanda, if you remember, the student accommodation where Debenhams used to be. And out of those 20 bricklayers there, we've got 10 apprentices. And yes, absolutely. That is a job that's going on for something like 18 months. And a lot of the apprentices that are starting on that site at the end of it, they will be fully fledged bricklayers. And what an opportunity they've got. I mean, our big boast is that within 5 years of starting as an apprentice, as a bricklaying apprentice, you're going to be earning around about £1,000 a week, and that's where they are, to be quite honest. And the world is your oyster, as Matt said. You've got all these opportunities to build your own house, to build your own career. In fact, if you've got a trowel, I always say you can travel. You can take that skill anywhere in the world, but I actually would like them to stay in Derby and to build stuff in Derby for us. But yeah, the opportunities are absolutely immense in the building trade at the moment. It's and it's not just about money either. It's not. It's about giving back, and of course, it's your career opportunity and going up the ladder, and supervising and doing other things is. Where bricklaying can take you is absolutely immense. So yeah, it's it is obviously a passion to me, and let's build on that.
Very good. I like it. Thank you, Lida. What are your thoughts on education?
Well, I'm a retired head teacher, so. But yes, I would agree that I don't think that children's passions are channeled in the right direction. I think we often just think, no, you just need to do this first, you need to do that first, then you do that, and then if you at the end of it you might come out with a career or not, or depending whatever it is you want to do. And I think that that's the one thing that we sometimes let children down on, that we don't allow them to really truly follow their passion, their desires, what they want to do. And what they end up doing, the chasm is so wide for so many. And I think that, education is about, it is about opportunity, but opportunity in the right way. And there has to be equality of opportunity too, so that everybody has the same options to do what it is that they would really like to do. And I mean, I'm not really sure nowadays, but there used to be careers advice in schools, and that seems to have gone out of the window to some degree. There isn't quite as much time and devoted to helping people crystallize what it is that they want to do in life. So too many of them leave school not really thinking about where their next step is going to be, or how or what they need to do in order to get to what it is that their passion is. I think it's the steps that are missing sometimes.
It's so important, isn't it? You must have seen so many journeys in your life as a head teacher of young people.
Certainly have, yes.
I might come back to you, Lida, actually, on that. But Callum, I mean, from your point of view, education, do you have thoughts on your thoughts on education?
I do. I would, again, like Matt, mine comes with a massive caveat. This is my personal experience, not anything that that I say as a professional. I'm 23 now. Look a lot older, I'm sure, for better or for worse. And I left mainstream education aged 18, then went through or left education that everyone else has to do aged 18, and then went to university and then did a master's. I think what Lida said there is absolutely vital. I think there does need to be diversity of opportunity, but there also needs to be diversity of mindset. I distinctly remember as a sixth former, so I think I would have been about 17, my head of sixth form, this wasn't in Derby, by the way, I should say, standing up and saying, right, who here is going to uni? And there was a room of about, I don't know, 100 people in my year, and a good 90 put their hands up, because that's all we were trained to do. You go from junior school to high school to sixth form or college, and then to uni. That's what you do. There is no other option. And then they said, right, who didn't put their hands up? And these poor 10 people, including a couple of good friends of mine, kind of meekly put their hands up and kind of cowered away from it. And it was almost like, oh dear, well, no hope for you then. And actually my best friend tried to do an accountancy course for a year and then did end up going to uni. However, I totally agree that passions are what students should be encouraged to follow, but also from the educator's point of view, and I'm sure this doesn't apply to all educators, but in schools in general, there does need to be an appreciation that not all kids are going to go to uni. And I think actually schools, certainly my school did, we marked almost our success by how many people got into uni. And that doesn't really work, because I think that then discourages people from becoming brickmakers, which is a perfectly suitable or perfectly respectable profession. Butchers and practical things that we don't really do anymore, because it's kind of assumed now that people will just go to university because that's what everyone does. So I certainly think there should be diversity opportunity, and I'd welcome that in Derby and in any city. But there does also need to be a greater almost acceptance and support of and for people who don't follow the path that perhaps society might consider mainstream. Because I think
you mean oddballs like me and you, Callum?
Yes, yeah, complete weirdos like us. And actually, I think that's where they get lost, is if they're not given that support because they're not on a normal, in inverted commas, channel. That's when they get lost. They might think from a young age, I really want to be a bricklayer, and then they don't get told how to be a bricklayer, and then they get lost. And that's how we lose kids out.
Yeah, I'm going to open this up again in a minute. I'm just going to come in and then I'll
no, of course.
I know Ian, you want to come back in and Callum and everybody, but I mean it's as anybody who probably knows me knows that I haven't got any qualifications, which is not nowadays is not as rare for an MP, because there are other routes. But I certainly didn't do a degree, and my A levels were not actually I didn't get. I don't even know why I'm trying to kid myself. But I do think there are different paths, and I actually believe that education is one of the single most important opportunities. But that's whether it's education academically, or whether it's an apprenticeship, as you rightly say, or whatever paths people choose to go down. And I've been a school governor now for 20 years, and the journey that I've seen young people go on is absolutely immense. And I think, Lida, you said something really important about, as an example, careers advice. And it's incredibly challenging, actually, to get into schools and give that careers advice. And I know in Derby we have E4E, and there's a load of volunteers who go into schools and give careers advice. But I think there is a challenge around careers advice, and certainly I don't think anybody's managed to nail how to give really good quality careers advice into school, because of the breadth of the careers that are available, but also the numbers of people where that advice would be. But I'd always welcome thoughts on that. And actually, we're having an education day in a couple of months' time, where we're going to try and discuss that. But I think one of the things I just wanted to, and forgive me, I've said this before, Matt, I know you've heard this, but for me, a lot of this is about confidence. And I didn't believe I could become a member of Parliament, because I just didn't believe in myself. And it took me a long, long time to actually think, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. Now, I had the great, fantastic opportunity to meet an amazing guy called Tim Peake, astronaut, And I say, Matt, I know I've said this before, but it is a really important message. And we had an awful lot in common because I did Girl Guides for 20 years. He does ambassador for the Scouts. And we were talking about young people and talking of opportunities. And we both agreed there's a lot more we can do, trying to get a lot more young people involved in STEM, as an example, a lot more diversity in STEM. And I'm working on that as well. But thinking no more of it. And it came towards Christmas, and he very kindly sent me his book, and it was autographed. It said, Amanda, lovely to meet you, great, from Tim Peake. And inside the book, there were 3 postcards, and the 3 postcards, one was to me, to my eldest daughter, saying, you know, best wishes. The second one was to my youngest daughter, saying, again, similar lines. But to my granddaughter, and I thought this was the most special thing, it said to blah, 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 her name, and it said, aim high. Now, what a gift to give somebody. It's about just believing in yourself. It's about having confidence, about aiming high. She's 2.5 now, and every morning she wakes up to that postcard on her wall saying aim high. And what a gift. And I would love to give that gift to everybody. But Callum, I interrupted you. Do come back, and then I'll invite Ian. I know you want to say something else, and Lida and Matt, anybody really, just let me know. Callum first.
No, I think I just about wrapped up, to be fair, Amanda. But as you say, it is kind of, I think, what students and educators should be encouraged to think is aiming high does not necessarily always mean aiming in the same place as everyone else. And I think if someone walks into a careers advice office, and I don't say this because I have dreams of becoming a careers advice officer, but if someone walks in and says, I want to be a bricklayer, that for them could be high.
Absolutely.
Whereas, or you could say, and the next person come in and I want to come in and study law, and that is equally as high relative to that person. And so I think it's just important that we as a society maintain, as I say earlier, about diversity of mindset, to make sure that everyone is encouraged to achieve what they want to do, wherever that is on the spectrum.
You and I are on exactly the same wavelength on that, because it is about what is right for that person, but it's enabling, and that's often where the challenge is in careers advice. Ian, did you want to come in, and then Lida, then Matt?
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with everything that's being said there, and I think what we need to do also is that I think that the peer group that some of these youngsters are in, they need to have a positive influence where maybe they're at let's re-engage with the careers advice, because some of those teachers and some of those parents aren't seeing construction or bricklaying as a high achieving job or apprenticeship. That they just don't see it. You know, if somebody's doing well at school and they want to go into the building trade, you know, I've heard them say, you know, what do you want to go and do that for? Well, look at the examples out there of what people can achieve, and it's a worthwhile trade to have. But I do feel that sometimes teachers are a little bit removed, and they've got a negative perception of the building trade, and instead of encouraging people to come into the trade, they're actually discouraging. And we need to work on that, because these days bricklaying and building and coming into the building trade is high esteem. There is a massive earning potential. There is a skills crisis out there. We need houses building, you know, because you can come in at any level and keep on going. I mean, I didn't go to university, but I stuck at it until I was in my mid-20s, until I was at a point where I was equal with my experience and qualifications as going to university. I just took a different route. I mean, we have got opportunities at Hodgkinson Builders where we have modern apprenticeships, not just in bricklaying, but in professional apprenticeships as well. So they might come in to us as a trainee QS, and they've spent a few years at college, and what we do, we then take them on day release and send them to university. Now, if they are on day release, then our student fees, our university fees are a few £100 a year. We'll cover that. It is not £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 a year. And instead of doing it over 3 years, it's done over 5 years. Therefore, at the end of it, £30,000, £40,000 worth of student debt isn't there, because as a business, we've covered all that. It surely is the way to go on. And it's the way to bring people through.
Yeah, no, fascinating. And I suspect there's other, when you talk about trades, I'm thinking of engineering, there could be a whole raft of trades. But you also mentioned, about teachers, and I'm going to come to Lida, but also parents as well. I wonder if that's a challenge as well, Lida, in terms of nowadays, is there a belief that the way forward is a degree? I mean, you've obviously got first-hand experience. Is it parents, teachers? What do you think?
I think it's about how society values the different outcomes for their children, really. And what is there to say that kindness shouldn't be valued?
Absolutely.
You know, so there are, when you look at children, you see some that are just naturally kind. And if they went into a caring profession, it's not valued the same as if they went on to be a lawyer or a doctor. Well, no, sorry, I'll take the doctor back, because of course that is a caring profession. But, you know, it's almost seemed as if, well, you're just going to be a carer, or you're going to do this, that's not as valuable as anything else. And I think that the way that society views it is the way it conditions parents to view these, like you said, Ian, these are lesser, for some reason, lesser value to society. But actually, where would we be without these people? We wouldn't have houses, we wouldn't have carers, we wouldn't have chefs, we wouldn't have this, you know. You look at it that way and you begin to realise that society is built up of so many different levels, and everything should be valued to the same extent. And it's getting that message across to parents, to teachers, to everybody, and to help people. I mean, there are people who genuinely want to leave school, leave education, and go into a caring profession, or leave it to do something entirely different, nothing to do with the university. And if along that journey they have the options, as Ian has said, to go on and to get different degrees or different certificates and train themselves up, then that's fine too. But we don't all have to do it via university in the first instance.
It should be cherished. I mean, I love that idea, Lida. I can't believe we've only got 4 minutes left, and I think we get cut off. Matt, I'm going to come to your final thoughts on this, and then I'm just going to come around the whole window on words of wisdom. So just prepare yourself.
Really quickly then on this, I think that it's interesting about the parents. Now, I'm a parent, and I think it's really important you push children to have a very solid foundation in education. Let's, get that, needs to be just the basics, get the basics right, and then start to understand what your child wants to do, and interact with them and see what their skill set is. My personal experience is that my eldest daughter showed a real skill in media, in media creation. And we encouraged that and knew that she was good at that. And she wanted to go to university after sixth form, and she went to study film. She's now working at ITV. My youngest daughter showed real skill, we felt, in performing. So we nurtured that, helped her to go to college rather than sixth form after she left secondary school. She's now a professional performer. So, that's my experience of being confident in your child's progress and supporting them when you truly believe they are talented, and they can demonstrate that. So it's a mix, and parents do play a really important part, I think.
Yeah, and as you say, and I think coming back to Lida's point, when you say talented as well, talent is also just about your personality as well. It's about the way you're made up, and from a caring point of view as well. And it's about us embracing all of that, I think. So I genuinely, I can't. Has anybody got any further thoughts before I just come to words of wisdom? I cannot believe where the time has gone. And I'm hoping that Callum and Lida are going to come back again, because it's been a fascinating discussion. But let's do some words of wisdom, as we've got 2 minutes left. Ian, I'm going to come to you first of all for your words of wisdom. Then Callum. Yeah,
well, I'll just, my words of wisdom will follow on from what Matt just said there. And again, if you've not gone to university, it doesn't mean you've failed. It's just taking a different route. You follow your passion, go and do something every day that you enjoy. And if you ever get up in the morning and ready for work, and it's not something that you want to do, or you're clock watching every day, you are in the wrong job. So follow your passion. Amanda, a quick one. Thank you for everything that you're doing for Derby County, by the way.
Yes, I wish we could have come on to Derby County, but Fingers crossed. Get you Callum and then Lida. Callum.
First word of wisdom is, Ian, if you're paying off 30 to 40 grand of student debt, you're more than welcome to pay off mine. You're more than welcome to pay off mine.
I'm not paying it off. It's not being run up in the first place.
No, I suppose my words of wisdom is equally, and as I suppose leading on from the previous conversation, is bear in mind who you take counsel from. I think that's something that's particularly pertinent to us as journalists. We have, and also me as a football referee, I have 22 people try and tell me how to do a job every week. And as journalists, we have even more people try and tell us how to do a job every week. Understand what is a genuine error. Understand how you can learn from that error, but equally make sure you're sifting out who is right to take advice from and who isn't, as we discussed about parents and teachers earlier. Same thing applies in life elsewhere.
Thank you very much, Callum. Lida, then Matt. Lida.
I think I'd like to say it's important to be resilient, to teach your children to be resilient, because resilience is what gets you through in life. It's what makes you say the next day, I can do better. I can aim higher. I can do this. And if you take knockbacks, it won't hurt you as much. And I think that that's so important. And to remember that if you fail, it's not, you're not broken. It teaches you how to succeed the next time around. I think that's important too.
Thank you very much, Lida. Matt, before I have a couple of words of my own, Matt.
Yeah, be thankful of the life you have. The horrors we're seeing on TV in Ukraine just make you take a step back and realise that there are people that are suffering. So, you know, we need to be kind to each other and keep Ukraine in our thoughts.
You read my mind, actually, Matt. I was just going to sort of wind back and just think about lives that other people live, and sometimes we forget to reflect just how difficult some of those lives are. And I think we need to be thankful as well for our lives and the great things that we have in our lives as well. Thank you so much, all of you, for tonight. I just genuinely have no idea where the time goes. But it's been really lovely to see all of you, and hopefully see you again really soon. Take care.
Thank you. Good
Cheers.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.